Sir Alex, on Sunday you become the longest serving manager this club has ever had. 24 years, 1 month and 14 days. What's your reaction to that achievement?
Surprise, really. You know, I thought Matt here had been here forever. You know, I mean, he had an interrupted spell. He retired and then come back, didn't he? It's quite amazing that one club can have two managers sharing what, 48 years or something, almost 50 years of management. It's quite incredible, but I suppose it's credit to Manchester United they can say that, you know.
Could you possibly have imagined doing anything like that when you first arrived in 1986?
It's a well-known fact about when you take over a job, that you take over a club of Manchester United because they weren't doing that well, and you know, so having to sort out the problems of why they're not doing well can sometimes take time. I have great regard for Ron Atkinson as a manager. I think he's a real good character, and I've always gone really well, and I think he's a splendid lad, you know, really top man. He never criticised Manchester United, always got nothing but good words to say about us, and I think it's great credit to him to be that way, and he enjoyed his time here. But you know, he got a few injuries his last season here. When I came, it was Robson, Whiteside, Strachan, Colin Gibson, Jesper Olsen were all injured at the time. There's a lot of top players there, so it was an unfortunate spell for him. But when I took over, you know, every manager's got his own philosophy and how he runs a football team. They've all got their own different ways, and I set about, you know, trying to live up to what I believed in, you know, and it took time, you know, but we got there, and you know, but at the start, the only one thing you ever thought about was to try to win that league, because that seemed to be our biggest problem.
I'd seen him when they'd won they won the UEFA Cup, as it was then, I think, and they beat Real Madrid in Gothenburg, and he just struck me as somebody that was actually in love with the game and put everything he possibly could into it, and because of that he succeeded and they won. But when he came here, we had no idea, really, no idea of the type of manager that he was going to be and the success that he would create, not just for himself but for the club. And he's put the club on a different plane, you know, in world terms. You know, people talk about Manchester United as being the most famous club in the world. Well, they could never say that if it hadn't been for Alex Ferguson. He's just been magnificent, really.
United are on top of the world. The Club World Cup is on the way to the Old Trafford Trophy Room. 2008 is one of the greatest years in the history of the club.
It's obviously Sir Matt Busby's record that you've broken. When you arrived at Old Trafford, did you actually know him? What was your relationship like with him?
Well, when I came here, I must say he was nothing but help to me. He was terrific. But unfortunately, he was coming to the tail end of his life, of course. But he still had these great, wonderful, warm qualities, you know. And I used to enjoy sometimes sitting in his little office at the end of the corridor, the way the confirmation, the offices were at that time. You always knew he was in the building because you could smell his pipe as you come up the stairs to the administration side. But you know, he was terrific. I remember we took him out to we took him to a game at Sheffield United, the quarter-final of the FA Cup, and he loved it. And he loved the banter between myself and Archie Knox and Big Norman Davis and the physio at the time, Jimmy McGregor, because we just, you know, slaughtered each other the whole night, and he sat there laughing his head off. It was good, you know. And then we're in the little snug bar after it, and he was having a brandy and his pipe, and he says, "This is all I need, Alec." He says, "I really enjoyed my day. Thanks very much." And I think that towards the end of his career, he was maybe getting inundated with a lot of people wanting his appearance at dinners and all that. It was too much for him, you know. So we try to organise his diary a bit better.
In terms of comparing the club then and now, we're doing this interview in Carrington, a multi-million-pound state-of-the-art training facility. Back then, you were training at the Cliff in Salford. So how would you say the club's changed in your 24 years?
It's incomparable, really, because when I came here, first of all, the physical part of the cliff, it was too small for what we've got now. You know, if you go back even to talk about my staff, I had 8 staff then. Joe Brown, he was Chief Scout and sort of a welfare officer. You had Tony Collins, Chief Scout. You had Jimmy Curran, who was assisted the physio. Jimmy did a lot of the strappings in his day. Jimmy used to play for the club. He had several positions throughout his time here. He's now retired. Jim McGregor was a physio. That was 4 people. And then on the football side, you had myself and Archie, and Eric Harrison, the youth coach, and Brian Whitehouse, the reserve coach. And that was it. That was the staff. Now you have, I don't know how many I've got. I'm losing track. Even on the sports science and the medical side, we've got something like, I think it's 16 or something like that. You know, it's amazing. Every game we go away from home, I'm taking 11, 12 bodies with me, you know. So you think about that change in itself. And of course, as things started to develop when I came to United and things would get better, and it's hard to actually think that, or to realise that we were at the cliff and we won the treble, you know. And there was just not enough room. What I did was, I made, I refigurated the indoor gymnasium and indoor place training centre out to the cliff, and put in dressing rooms and moved the youth over there, because we didn't have enough room at the cliff. It was just, we were outgrowing the building, you know. So Ken Merritt and I were hunting about Manchester, looking at different bits of sites to see if we could get a place we could relocate. Went up to Heaton Park, which was somewhere else. There was some not far from Cheetham Mill. We looked at somewhere, and we looked at Sale Rugby, which is now City's training ground. We looked at that, and then all of a sudden this lad John Thomason came with the option for this piece of land, which we are now, was owned by Shell. So here we are.
And has your role changed? Because back then you mentioned you had 8 staff, so were you involved in everything from top to bottom in the club? Has your role changed? Is it less hands-on now?
There's 2 things. When you have to learn to delegate this club, because as we grew so big, then you know delegation is important. But secondly, you get older, so you don't have the same energy to devote all your time to youth and reserves, and so the delegation part, the people who are doing that now, like Paul McGuinness has been with us a long time now. I had Paul as a player when I first came, and he did all his badges and he went into the School of Excellence, which we had at the time, and he replaced Nobby Styles. And now he's a youth coach, and he's done fantastic work, you know. You just can't think that what it was then is what it is now, you know.
And what about the game itself? How has football changed in that 24 years?
I think there's been good improvements. I think the 2 things, and it's funny we talk about that, but the state of pitches today are far superior to where we're going back. Old Trafford, I always remember we played, my first FA Cup tie was against City. We beat them 1-0. And we had the ground covered with straw because the undersill heating hadn't been working right. And then we got a second round tie against Coventry, and it was all frozen Manchester, you know, the training ground, with no undersill heating in the training ground, of course. And we went up to the Lakes, because there was some good facilities there in terms of gymnasium and that kind of thing. And we did a bit of training on a little pitch near the hotel, which was okay, but it was still filmish. In the morning of the game, Norman Davidson phoned me on the way down. He says, "You'll not believe it, but some of the undersill heating's not working." So one half of the pitch was hard and the other half was soft. Manchester United, I couldn't believe it. And I said that to the secretary at the time, Les All. I says, this is absolute shambles, Les. Manchester United. We got knocked out. we knocked out with one of these freakish goals, and we missed a lot of chance in the game. And the ball was squimming about the penalty box, and it was ricocheting off our defenders. Guy Keith Houchin, that scored the goal, was swinging. He said about 4 swings at the ball before they managed to squeeze it home. Anyway, they went on to win it, which I was very pleased for the manager, John Stillett. He's an absolute fantastic character. And but you have to look at Manchester United. Would that be allowed to would that happen today? No chance. So that was a disappointment.
So many highs and lows over the years, obviously many more highs than lows, but can you pick one of each, a major high and a major low?
The highlight is definitely Barcelona to me, that to do the treble first of all, but the manner in which we did it and the atmosphere of the stadium that night and the number of fans we had. I always remember there was 94,000 there, but no one's going to tell me there was less than 60,000 United fans. It was unbelievable. So that was a great moment.
Into Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it! Manchester United have reached the promised land. The 2 substitutes have scored the 2 goals in stoppage time, and nobody will ever win a European Cup final more dramatically than this.
What about the enduring friendships that you've made in your time at Old Trafford? For instance, Kath out there on the reception says 24 years is absolutely nothing, but I guess you've worked with a lot of people, players and staff, for many of those years.
She's been here since the start of time, I think. She here before the clock was invented. But that's an indication of Manchester United. That is a great indication, Kathy Phipps. 42 years. We've had many people like that. Ken Merritt, Wynn's been with me, he's been my secretary since the day I came. I made a suggestion to Wes Olive. He used to have a general office, and Joy Gresti used to sit and she had a hole in the wall where she opened it, and Wes Olive was sending through stuff to her, and she was sending some stuff back. And I said to Wes, well, Wes, you've got an office here, general staff. Some are sort of a part-time, you really should have an office. Joy should have her own office next to you. And I should have my own office with a girl next to me, and I chose Lynn when she was she hadn't long started at the club, but she was, as she is, diligent, hard-working, honest and loyal, and so I took Lynn, and she's been with me ever since. So Lynn's been with me 24 years. You look at people: Wes Kershaw, Jimmy Ryan, Dave Bushell, Tony Whelan, Paul McGuinness. They've all been with me 20 years, and then just below that you got people with Jeff Watson and Mike Phelan, for instance, Brian McQuair. There's a lot of people who've been with me a long time, and that further explains the sort of a family atmosphere we have at this club.
His desire is there for all to see. It's not diminished over the years, and he's been huge for me. I mean, his experience that he passes on, just every little bits and pieces he chucks something out, sometimes a bit new and a bit different in a team talk that makes you sit and think about it and think, yeah, he's right there. And again, he leads by example.
He's still hungry for success. Does that make you and the other players hungry?
Well, you can't fail to be. He's been there that long. How many years is it? 55 years? No, I'm joking.
He'll thank you for that one.
And he's I mean, if he's still got the hunger and desire, if some players have been here 1, 2, 3, I've been here 8 or 9 years now, how can we not have the same desire? So that's the example that he sets.
Does his success prove that continuity as far as managers go can be the key to success at clubs? Because we see so many managers lose their jobs.
Well, you see most of the time the most successful managers and teams are the ones who have got the same manager for a long period of time, or the same staff at least. And luckily here the manager's been here all them years, and the staff's very similar. People say how big a club this is. Yeah, so it's a massive club, probably the biggest in the world. But if you look behind the scenes, there's many people that have been here 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years. So that speaks volumes to what this club's about, continuity.
It's important for every player is stability in the club. I think this club have stability. Obviously, Gaffer is 24 years here, and I think you have so many people in the staff there with him, like more than 20 years, and that means they have great understanding. They know what he wants, and as well, it's easy for the player when you have, like I said, stability in the club. You know, all staff. Or the players, and obviously press speaking, it's not point to saying again, speaking again how good he is. I think the trophies show and statistics show how good is someone, and I think in his case, I think it's everything he said in the trophy. How many trophies he win?
Have you ever doubted yourself in the time that you've been in charge of Manchester United, or if you're manager of this club, can you not afford to doubt yourself?
Well, doubting comes into probably when I first started. I think it's like everyone that goes into a new job, they have certain, not trepidation, but apprehensions about are they going to be successful. Particularly as I'd come from Scotland, I'd never worked in England, you know, and so coming down was daunting, you know. But I immersed myself in the hard work of it, you know, trying to do what I wanted to do, and so therefore it takes you away from all the concerns, the peripheral concerns you get at a football club, and outside problems, you know, you can have with press and things like that. But no, you know, you have doubts, and you know, when you lose games, even now you still have those sort of there's this. Well, how we're going to recover from this one, and we do the same things all the time.
It always strikes me that making tough decisions is one of the biggest roles a manager can have, particularly in a club of this size. What are the toughest decisions you have to make? Is it regarding players you sign and decide to get rid of?
Yeah, well, management is about making decisions, and you know, sometimes they're positive and good, and sometimes you maybe have made the wrong decision, and you feel that maybe you should have attacked it a different way, or you maybe should have done something different. But picking teams, for instance, made a decision the other night to leave Berbatov out of the team. Not an easy one, very difficult to explain to Dimitar. And you know, the only way I can explain it is, look, you know, I feel that it's going to win us a match, this decision. And you know, although it's proved right, you're never sure.
For keep 22 international player for a team, the answer is just Sir Alex Ferguson. You know, I think, and as well, he bring to me the culture of winning is normal, winning is your job, winning is your life. You know, and he give you that culture every day, every game. He hate losing, and you know, you need to sign a deal with him when you play for him. You need to be on your top, because when you're gonna be not on your top form, you're gonna not play, and another player gonna play, because he always tell to everyone the star is the team, it's not one player. He always put the team before every other player, you know, and that's why every player respect him.
It's amazing, because I think at other clubs, you know, lots of managers are trying to control egos and everything, but do you think because of the values that Manchester United have, that will never change, certainly under Sir Alex?
Yeah, of course. And when the gaffer signs players, he doesn't just look for the talent, he looks for the personality and the character and attitude and the values they have. So that's one of the things I've learned. Get players in with the right attitude and values.
We all know about the famous hairdryer treatment, and you did national service in Norway. Did that prepare you for it?
No, I don't think so. I'm such a nice lad anyway in the national service. I never got told off there, but a couple of times the managers really told me what it means.
In a way, is that a good thing sometimes, when you know where you stand?
Definitely, because he knows exactly what buttons to press on the different players. So he didn't give it me much or many times, but when I deserved it and when he knew that this will have an effect, he did it. So that's one of the things I'll have to bring with me, when to praise, when to put down, when to, yeah.
Well, obviously you've worked with some great players in those 24 years, but is there one you'd pick out as being the most important in that time?
Well, I've been very fortunate for some fantastic players and fantastic characters. You know, I thank the Lord for that, because, you know, it's been an absolute privilege to work with all of them, and they're not all different. They're all not the same, of course. You're different characters, different personalities, different standards of players. It's always one of these areas in which you say, what is determined great? How do we determine great? What are the dividing lines between great and good and bad? You know, and it's a very difficult one to answer. For instance, I always believe that forwards are the great ones. You know, but we've had several defenders or midfield players who maybe were not the most talented footballers, but they had a grit and determination that made them great in my eyes. You know, and probably in all the supporters' eyes. So you've got if you put them all on the podium, they would stand quite rightly with all the great players in the game. You know, we've been very fortunate. Two of the greatest goalkeepers the football's had. You know, right away, Schmeichel and Edwin van der Sar. You know, we're very fortunate to have acquired their services, and not just that, they were great professionals.
Radicek, the pole. Crossed it again, and a good one. And not it down! A wonderful save by Schmeichel!
If I had a disappointment, the disappointment was Steve Bruce. He never got a cap. And Bob, I always remember Bob Robson coming apologising to him in Portugal. And we'd played the testimonial game for Eusebio. And he came to tell after the game, Bobby, and he stood in front of everyone, all the players, and says, Brucey, I apologise, I should have capped you. You know, I should have given you your cap. And it was because he was such a dominant personality, you know, and it was just unfortunately never got that cap.
Came up with a great quote recently when you said you were too old to retire. Whenever you reach a landmark like this, people obviously ask you about your future and how long you're going to go on for. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, as I said a few weeks ago, it's the older you get, the more worried you are about retiring, because you stay. You see, when you get older, and I said this to Kathy just a few years ago, when I finally retire, we can travel. She says, yeah, but you need your health to travel. You know, you're moving about, maybe going to America. So as you get older, you start to realise that whilst you've got your health and good fitness, carry on your job, you know, and so all thoughts of retirement are in the back of my mind.
So you're relieved you didn't retire in 2002, because since then you won another four titles since then in the European Cup.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. Yeah, it was a mistake. But at the time there was some reasons for it, but which I don't need to get into, but it was just one of these things, you know.
We've had just unbelievable success here, and the change. A lot of people ask me, you know, Alex Ferguson has been a major success. Why is he able to do it? You know, why is he able to actually just know exactly what team he should be picking out when other people think he's crazy? It happens all the time, but he always makes the right decisions. He's a magician in that case. But he loves the game. He loves the game of football. He loves being manager. He loves being in charge. He loves the challenge, and we've been very fortunate. You know, the directors of football clubs can be pilloried, you know, for making stupid decisions. We made the best decision that could ever have happened, could ever have been in bringing Alex Ferguson to this club.